This is the new disco. Now, the disco was a really significant breakthrough design back in the late 1990s to early 2000s, and it completely changed the way that we paddled rivers. Everything from freestyle to river running. Now, originally the disco was designed as a world championship winning freestyle boat. That's what its goal was. It was to open up new moves, new things. The whole sort of butt bouncing aerial stuff was just starting to happen. And the disco was a massive game changer in that style of paddling that came along. But interestingly enough, what happened with the disco was that very quickly people started to run rivers in it. They started to take it in what we would call micro creeking. And it became, ultimately, as new designs came along that were perhaps better suited for freestyle, the disco became that go-to boat that you could freestyle with and go run a river with. And it was such a game changer. There was such a paradigm shift in the industry of how boats were designed and how boats were paddled that today the disco remains a name for a kayak design that people immediately go to in their heads when they think breakthrough design. So when I decided I wanted to do a new short play boat, it was obvious to me that I wanted to do the disco. I wanted to redo the disco. However, I didn't want to do what I refer to as an ICF freestyle kayak. These are these little sort of sub 6 foot boats that are designed to do, 2,000 points in 45 seconds to go win the world championships. That's not what I wanted to do with this. What I wanted to do with the disco is I wanted to bring back to the river running play boater a boat that would fit into all the micro spots, all the micro holes and micro waves and little slotty rivers, a boat that would be really fun, that it will do all of the new modern moves. It's just not going to do 2,000 points worth in 45 seconds. But every modern move that you can do in an ICF freestyle kayak, you can do in the disco, in the new disco. It's just a little bit slower, there's a little bit more time between the moves. And that was sort of goal number one, does all the new moves. But more significantly was I wanted a boat that was going to be a more enjoyable river runner. The problem with the ICF style boats is they don't run rivers very well. They're very short, they're very slow to paddle. They're so focused on generating the maximum number of moves in the minimum amount of time that you lose any enjoyment of actually paddling down a river. So a couple of things that we did with this compared to the original disco and also compared to ICF boats is the first and most significant one is it has a little bit more volume here in the bow and the foot area and more rocker in the nose. So when you're paddling down a river, you don't have to lean back, you don't have to be doing this, you just paddle down the river and it's balanced, it feels balanced. It's 6'6" long, so it's got just enough speed to where it'll carry direction when you're going down the river, it'll catch waves on the fly, it'll kind of move in and out of eddies in a way that you would want a boat to move rather than a cork to bob. And so this dry ride from the nose makes the boat really enjoyable. You can micro creek it, you can go on your sort of easy class 4 creeks. I mean, there's always going to be that guy that's going to go charging with the thing, but like they used to do in the late 1990s and early 2000s, but that's not the goal of the boat. So also the other big thing between the original disco and this one here is a lot more volume in the center of the boat. Two things. One is ergonomics. It makes the boat much more comfortable. Your knees are higher. It's got a bigger cockpit than the original disco. And the other thing is it packs a lot more volume into the middle of the boat, so it'll sit on the surface. It doesn't sort of wallow down like the original disco did. A little bit more volume right back here where we have the boobies, the butt. Jury's out on what the ones of the original disco were. They're back. And then it cuts down the volume in the very tail of the boat so it's easy to initiate moves off the tail of the boat. Big difference between this boat and the original disco is the hull speed. It has a more flared sidewall through here than the original disco, so it's a lot more forgiving. And then this edge shape here on the new disco is much faster and much looser than the original disco. So this is faster on a wave, it's more carvy on a wave, it's looser, it's easier to spin. And it's also more forgiving, partly because this edge is raised a lot more compared to the main planing surface and of the flared sidewalls. As I said before, it has enough rocker in the nose to where you can just paddle down the river. You don't have to lean back like you do on ICF boats or the original Disco. And the rocker in the tail, it's enough to where you can surf backwards without ever catching it, but it's low enough to where it'll keep a lot of speed. So that's a really nice thing on this boat here. This boat that you're looking at here has the super comfy outfitting system in it. So it has a reinforcing hull tray that the whole center section of the boat where you don't have the foam walls and the ends is supported by this tray. That's the blue one you can see in there. That then has a really comfortable foam seat. Now the seat is really cool because you can adjust it forward and back without tools. You just lift it, move it, put it back in, and so it has like an industrial Velcro clip on it. And it's comfortable, it's warm in cold water and cold months. Then you have the back band here that is very, very comfortable, fits nice in the back, it's supported through a series of D-rings. The front of the boat, the front wall, there's a plastic pillar that goes around the foam pillar that's in the nose of the boat. So the foam gives you your flotation. The plastic pillar makes the whole front of the boat really, really strong, and it has a foam pillar in the back. The nice thing about the way this back band adjusts is you would loosen up the bungees in the back of the back band. You then pull this forward, you crank it back like that, and it adjusts it forward. You pull that forward, you crank it back, adjust it into place. Cam buckles, as you know, anybody who's tied a kayak on the roof of the car knows that cam buckles are very, very reliable. Once this is in place, you hook this under there so you don't have this flapping around inside the cockpit. To get out of the boat, very simple. You just push on this and it'll slide back as you lean back on there. Well, when your body's in the boat, it slides back like that. Very simple, very light. This is the lightweight version of the boat. So it's still plastic. It'll take some hits. You can bang some rocks. You can do your rock spins and hit bottom when you're doing moves and things like that. And then we have a stronger version of the boat that's about 1 kilogram or so heavier than this. It's for your beaters. It's for you guys who just abuse boats. Everybody knows that guy that breaks everything they touch. We got a boat for you too. So that comes in orange for that. And then we also have the yellow version of the Disco that comes with the power seat, which is something that I had back in the Savage days, Riot days. It's a contour forming seat that it's not for everybody, but if you like the power seat, you know what it is. So that's the new Disco. It's a river running play boat that'll do all of the modern ICF freestyle type moves and be a fantastic river runner, so you can actually enjoy the paddling experience itself. If you want to find out more about the Disco, go to soulwaterman.com, check it out, and if you got more questions, send us a message.